Isn't there some baseball game going on?
Maybe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 251 for November 1st, 2017. That's 251.
251.
No, I don't do the sign language thing, but if I did, it would be two.
I don't even have that many fingers.
Yeah, I thank God it's not 271 and I'd be screwed. Hey, here I am. My name is Russell Frost. I am lucky enough to host this weekly dive into advanced technology, transportation, and sustainable energy. And luckily for me, and especially luckily for all of you out there in viewer and or listener land, I have some friends to help me, and good friends they are to have. The gentleman with the leaky beer in Boulder, Colorado, the founder of Boulder Hybrids, which you can find at boulderhc.com, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, folks. Glad to be back. And yes, my beer kind of leaked a bit, but it's all good. And looking forward to tonight's show.
Thank you. We have averted a leaky beer crisis, then.
It was a close one.
I was worried. Well, speaking of worry, I never worry when the man next to him is on the show because I know Tony has my back. He is our man in Chicago, the master of the Prius Prime, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hey, yeah, that's me. I real quick want to give a shout out to the Houston Astros, and I actually mean it quite seriously. They might be, let's see, what are we? They're in the second inning. They might be 7 innings away from winning their first franchise World Series, and I just think that's exciting. I root for the team who. Underdog. They have something to win.
The team that's underwater.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's awesome. So yeah, I'm saying go Houston.
Well, let's find out what the fourth member of our group thinks. He is our man in Canada, the master of the Chevy Volts, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
I don't care if Houston wins or not.
Okay. Moving on.
I lost interest when the Blue Jays got kicked out. So there, yeah.
Good for you. And
I guess Houston doesn't have a hockey team, so.
Yeah, they're completely lost to me. I don't even know where Houston is.
Underwater, like Paul said.
Underwater, yes.
Oddly enough, most Houstonites don't know where Houston is. So, and since we've just lost the entire city of Houston, thank you for watching so far, at least. That's all I got. But we actually have a show full of news, full of excitement. And the first part of the show, as Patrick Connor so fondly calls it, is the Russell's rant section. And my rant this week is a little vague, but it's not too vague. Tesla had their quarterly earnings call today, and there was some, let's just call it as I think it. There's some real good bullshit scooped up there. Like gold-plated snow shovel full of bullshit. And I'm kind of, I say this as someone who's a fan of Tesla, who likes their products and wants them so badly to succeed. There's no irony there. There's no sarcasm there. I genuinely do, because I want them to revolutionize the personal automobile business. And I'm worried because I think they're in way over their head on the Model 3. Why do I say that? If Elon Musk doesn't immediately excise the phrase production hell from his vocabulary, I hope his PR person hits him with a baseball bat. Okay. Let me quote a friend of ours, Ed Niedermeyer. Whatever you think of Ed, this quote from a tweet on October 6th. Quote, "The reason car companies don't call ramps production hell is that they do it constantly and nobody wants to hear their excuses." So succinct and beautiful, I can't even imagine someone could have put it better. It's called production hell, and it's tough, but guess what? It's your job. What
Right.
you do. If you're a manufacturer, you don't get to bitch about manufacturing. You don't get to make excuses.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. By the way, you can follow Ed on Twitter at Tweetermeyer. He's at Tweetermeyer, and definitely recommend it. Ed's a fun guy.
Tweetermeyer, get it?
Exactly. Yeah. There was some other stuff. Elon's kind of dancing on the production numbers. In the Tesla Life show, we had a guest, Kenneth Bokor, on who runs as part of the Tesla Model 3 Owners Club. He co-hosts their video productions, and he said something. He listened to the call. I did not. So my information is a little more distant. But he said that Elon claimed they were going to be up to 5,000 Model 3s per week by the end of the first quarter of 2018. What I'm seeing in print is that Elon said that they were going to be up to 500 cars per week by the end of the first quarter of 2018. Either way,
Well, 500 a week. If there's 400,000 people on the waiting list, when do you get your car? If you're
After you're dead.
yeah,
your heirs inherit.
Your estate gets your car.
yes, your great grandchildren will get your Model 3.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a problem, and obviously it's a ramp. Even if they hit the 500 per week, then they expect to ramp it up and do increase production throughout 2018. The problem is, of course, Elon was very bold about making predictions, as he is, and the conversation that Ed Niedermeyer and I had on Twitter is, it's not unusual for auto company CEOs to blow smoke up our collective skirts. Okay. Not unusual at all. We hear it all the time. Chevy did it for years with the Volt. And we took him to task on this show for 3 years before the Volt was close to production. They were fluffing some artificial piece of crap that was never going to be made. And then Chevy got their shit together and made a great car and put it out. And I think as vocal as we were about opposing that, we were also vocal in recognizing what a great achievement the Volt was. And I don't feel bad. I think when a company, a car company in this case, is full of shit, I think you call them on it. And when they do something good, I think you acknowledge that. That's fair and honest, and that's what the show at its base is about. So,
although I will say Wall Street wasn't too impressed with the news. Let's see, this morning their stock was at 332, and it's after hours trading now at 304.90. So down about 8% since this morning.
Time to buy.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's not well deserved.
Yeah. No, they.
I am seriously concerned that Tesla is going to screw this Model 3 up. Whatever it was, hubris or bad planning or the wrong people or whatever, I am deeply concerned that
it's just inexperience. They've never bet in these type of numbers. That's what it is, I believe.
Yeah, they've gone from a boutique car manufacturer to high volume, full on, or they're trying to do high volume, full on production, and it's not that easy.
No, they're learning the hard way on many things, I'm sure.
I mean, it's taken GM and Ford 100 years to figure it out. So,
and
they're still learning.
Yeah. And the other car companies regularly screw things up.
Right, because making mass producing cars is hard, and you can't underestimate that.
Right.
It's hard, and it's not just Tesla. It's every manufacturer that provides parts to the, 10,000 plus parts in a Tesla. Sure, it's not the 30,000, 40,000 that's in a lot of other internal combustion engine cars, but that's a lot of parts, and that's a lot of vendors to worry about.
Sure. Sure. Well,
And if one vendor's late, it throws a wrench in the whole production line.
Mhm.
Yep.
absolutely. And one of the things, I don't have the link, interestingly enough. One of the news stories I wanted to bring into this discussion was that Tesla's, one of their main parts suppliers, they dialed back the parts orders.
Oh, right.
Big way.
Yep. Because the parts were stacking up.
Yeah.
It's like I got no room to put them.
Filling up in the parking lot, and the staff had even less places to park.
Oh, has anyone checked the Instagram page?
I have not, but I'm going to go look for parts now. Yes.
Yeah, there's boxes of steering wheels and stuff.
Yeah.
Skids.
It was
Yeah.
axes or something, wasn't it? Mark, do you remember? Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was. It was like gear ratio.
Yeah,
Kits. Yeah.
something. That's a scare. I mean, they have to do it, and I'm not complaining because they're doing it. That makes sense to do it, but the implication of that is that they're finally coming to the reality that they're way behind. And
they're not going to catch up anytime soon.
yeah, exactly. They're not going to catch up anytime soon. This isn't production hell. It's only happening for a little while. This is learning to make something in big numbers. And the learning curve is tough, Elon. And maybe, you shouldn't have been so cocky, buddy.
But that's how he rolls. He's
Yeah.
always been that way. I mean, remember when he was launching the Model S? And I keep coming back to this. Launching the Model S, there were delays. He kept saying, we're coming out with a car. And he literally raised the prices on the Roadsters and had a meeting of people waiting for Roadsters explaining why their prices were going up because the Model S was being delayed. And I mean, the balls of that, this guy doesn't crumple. And that's a little bit admirable. That's just how he rolls.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know how admirable it is.
I just the chutzpah of that.
I guess, but at some point you have to be honest. Excuse me. I'm talking about American business, aren't I?
Right.
I'm talking about business in general. And this was, again, the discussion that I had earlier was, so isn't the important question here, shouldn't Elon be more transparent? And how is Tesla any different from any other car companies? And let's be realistic. CEOs of other car companies don't come out and go, hey, we screwed the pooch on this one. Sorry, we're going to fix it, but we fucked up. No one does that. This is what everyone does. And that's the sad thing, because Elon was supposed to be different.
Yes. Yeah. I understand.
But they are the youngest significant car company, in the industry. So they got to learn. I mean, the big companies all said, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And Elon's like, yes, I do. We're engineers and we're from Silicon Valley. But like we've all been saying, it's not easy to build a car.
Yeah.
Elon said, step aside. I'm South African.
Yes. And he has more knowledge about building cars than GM or Toyota or anybody else.
Oh, God. You're right. Again, it's if you hear frustration, it's because I want them to do better, and I'm passionate about this category, and I want them to be successful. I want them to keep pushing the other companies to do more.
I just have to keep going back to Elon's track record, though. Like, yes, he's always jumped ahead of what he can do. He's pushed harder than others in the category, and he's been told time and time again that you are going to fail. You're going to fall on your face. You'll never get the car out. You'll never get this next version out. You'll never get the third version out. So he has beaten the critics in a number of ways, but you're right. He will continue to push, and he does fall on his face every once in a while, and it's because of the inexperience that he's learning.
I agree. Well, let's talk about something fun, Mark.
Let's talk about sales numbers in the new cars that have come out, the new EVs. And what just happened just today, being November the 1st, is that GM has released their numbers, and the Chevy Bolt EV has taken the crown and has now the highest selling vehicle under the GM banner.
Oh.
So they pushed out 2,781 copies of the Chevy Bolt, which is about 6% higher than last month. And currently, we're looking at somewhere in the area of 17,000 Bolts have been sold this year alone.
Go Bolt, go!
So they are just rolling. They're starting to push out further and further. Leasing deals are a little bit better. It talks that the car is starting to come into its own and really start to move some volumes. And what happened to the Chevy Volt is that it's dropped a little bit. So its numbers have peaked out a little bit. Paul, you had something to add?
I just was going to say I had a customer in here like an hour ago who was thinking of upgrading his old Prius, and we were talking about a Volt, and he said, yeah, that's probably would work well. And then he said, but we have a Subaru that we can use on road trips, so I kind of would like the Bolt. And I thought the Bolt was more expensive. So we went online, and maybe this is smoke and mirrors or bait and switch, but we went on cars.com, searched for the cheapest bolts, new bolts in the country, and there's dealers in Massachusetts supposedly selling 2017 bolts that list at $37,000 for $21,500.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Wait. Is that before all the incentives?
Well, it doesn't say, and they should say that if it's truly $21,500 before the $7,500 tax credit federal.
It's not possible.
And the $5,000.
I'll take two.
Credit.
I know. I'll write it.
$9,000 car. I'm going to buy one for $9,000. So I don't know. Something smells fishy, but they shouldn't, because not everybody can get the federal rebate, so they shouldn't put it in the price.
Right.
I think that's against the law to advertise.
So buy your one-way ticket to Massachusetts, and we'll make a deal.
But seriously, if you live in Colorado, you get a brand new Bolt for $9,000. I mean,
that cannot be right.
That does not. That defies.
Go on cars.com, search for Bolt, sort by price. They're all the LTs, which is the base model, but still.
Right. Still.
That's a hell of a deal.
So I don't know if that we'll certainly look into that, see if that is realistic or not. But the numbers have increased. They're pushing out more of them. They're now, of course, open to all, I believe they're open to all 50 states now that you can get the car in. You can order it. So that's helping numbers now that they're across the country. And the Volt, as mentioned, has dropped off a little bit, close to 40% it's dropped. And it only sold 1,362 units, although that's still a sizable amount. And if you add that to the Bolt, Chevy's pushed out over 4,000 electric vehicles this month.
And that is admirable right there.
So that number is growing and continue to grow. That's excellent. So
interestingly enough, one company has no problems mass producing an electric vehicle.
Well, there'd be even talk about that though with the number of Bolts that have been put out. So there's been different areas of the country that have been screaming for it. Canada being one of them. But that also could be just distribution, because I know there's a sizable amount in the California area, and it seems like Massachusetts is getting a good amount too.
Well, and just looking on cars.com, there's some 2017 Volts that MSRP for 35, selling for 26, somewhere back east.
Wow.
And so then you get $7,500 off that, $5,000 if you're in Colorado. So now you've got a $14,000 Volt, which is pretty darn good.
Man, I gotta move.
Well, it sounds like Canada needs to get listed as a carb state.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where do I sign the paperwork?
Yeah. How do I make that happen?
You can fake the prime minister's signature.
Exactly. I'm sure they don't look at that stuff.
Right. Oh, CA, you're from California then. Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
sorry.
interestingly enough, Quality Chevrolet here in Escondido has 58 bolts on their lot.
58.
So they claim in their inventory.
Wow.
Now, there's a good portion of them that don't have real pictures. They're using stock photos, and I'm going to guess those are probably on order and actually not on the lot.
But in California, a lot of people buy them for the carpool stickers, right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
To save
But they
on
buy
commute.
them, you know.
But
Yeah.
we're talking about, a car that on the low end is 38,000 here, and on the high end is 43,000, minus rebates and
Mhm.
Right.
whatever applies. I mean, that's not a cheap car.
No, it's not. But they're starting. The numbers this month were the highest ever. So
Yeah,
and of course, as we approach the end of the year, so we've got November and December left. The sales of plugins and EVs even tends to rise higher because at that point, people know what their tax implications are going to be approaching the end of the year, and some of them opt to get involved at that point because they know they can get whatever percentage of that 7,500 that's available to them.
Right.
So I look for the numbers to even go higher for the next 2 months.
wow.
Yeah. A lot of people want to get it in because they don't know if there'll be tax credits next year with the crazy government things going on. So
Absolutely. Well, and that traditionally, I mean, that November, December are good months, for that.
rebate stuff.
Yeah.
And I know there is, we talk about, a product cannibalizing another product, but, like Mark said, in the grand scheme, you look at total GM sales, they are the top selling plug-in manufacturer right now, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Everybody's sitting on the sidelines that would consider a Leaf because the new one isn't out yet.
Who would have predicted that?
Yeah.
Who would have predicted that here's a useful.
And Mitsubishi still doesn't have a car for sale in this country.
They can't figure out why.
The weeks just tick away.
God. Oh, so horrible.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Mark. It's always nice to have.
Oh, speaking of cars, I just got an email from Tesla.
Yeah.
It says, "Thank you again for your Model 3 reservation. We're making significant progress, but clearly production bottlenecks have happened, blah, blah, blah. Your estimated delivery time will now be slightly later than originally expected." I wonder what slightly means. Is that years? Over the next 24 hours, you can log into your Tesla account and view your updated delivery window.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I guess they're responding to Wall Street dumping their stock.
Mhm.
I mean, there's one nice thing that says, "Thank you for your patience, and more importantly, for believing in a sustainable energy future." That's nice.
Yeah.
Working hard to make it happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Sadly for Tesla, there are other companies providing a sustainable energy future as well.
you can find out more information about your reservation, your delivery timing, and get a first look of the 3 Model 3s that have come off the line. Sorry. I didn't say that, but-
But,
You're reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
but hey, look on the bright side, Paul. That's even longer for them to draw interest on your $1,000 deposit.
Yes. But it's funny how they shot this email out this evening because of all the bad press they're going to get tomorrow morning. So
Yeah, right, possibly.
because they don't want 100,000 people canceling their orders tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are learning as a car company, is what you're saying.
I don't, all the news stories are kind of going, and there was a great story on Ward's Auto that Patrick Connor sent us that our friend Buzz Smith, who was on the show a few weeks ago, is quoted heavily in. The salient quote here is that Bolt sales have tumbled 60% since the Bolt hit the market 10 months ago. I don't know that that's the story, though. You know what I mean?
Well, I think people have realized that a 230-mile EV is a darn good fit for
Absolutely.
most people's
Right.
needs.
Right.
And again, if you're a two-car household and the other car can be your road trip car, you're good. you're not going to have range anxiety.
The other car is a high mileage hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that, I mean, I think the strength of it is, or the story should be, holy shit, GM's selling a bunch of these things, volts and bolts, more than they have before.
Just like someone like Apple, they're not scared to outsell another model to step up the ladder.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So Mac sales go down because the iPad sells. Well, we're selling more iPads. It's fine.
Yeah. You're right. They sell 3 times as many iPads as they do MacBooks. Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. They're still making money.
Right.
And absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see. Let's go to the next story. Tony, I think, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to mention that Houston is leading the Dodgers 5-0 in the second inning.
Oh.
What?
I have to go there.
Oh, right. Oh, that other thing.
Yeah, I got that. There. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. There it is. Thanks. Yeah, I was going to look for that. So, Toyota is talking about airless tires. These things get thrown around about every 5 years. Somebody comes out with announcements of airless tires. This certainly isn't the first time we've heard of this. The last time we heard about it was the military looking into airless tires, so they didn't have to worry about flat tires on the battlefield or whatever. But in this case, Toyota's looking at them for their hydrogen-powered, fine comfort ride, concept, ugly piece of whatever concept car this is. And Russell made the joke on the email providing the links that apparently removing the air makes the car lighter.
Am I stupid for saying obviously there's less rubber?
Right. That's why it's lighter.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't really say that. It's like airless tires. Okay, so
hang on, what if they filled them with helium? Then they'd be lighter.
And the car would go faster.
So they did say in the article that this is, again, stupid, just futuristic stuff. At the moment, the concept tires still weigh as much as pneumatic tires, but the technology could develop to trim 5 kilograms, around 11 pounds, from each tire. That's around 30% of the tire's weight, and the development could come as early as 2025.
Good. Well,
right. The technology could develop, and it could be here by 2025.
And there could be a hydrogen station on every corner in America, too.
Yeah.
The sad part is this is a car that says fuel cell on the back.
I know. That's the only depressing part of the article. Now, and don't get me wrong, I am fully in favor of airless tires. I think airless tires is a great concept. No longer do you have to worry about a flat tire on long drives, and especially if cars become autonomous, and I say if they get to level 6 autonomy and the cars are driving around to pick you up, you certainly don't want a car without a person in it getting a flat tire. So the idea of airless tires has a lot of potential behind it. But for the love of God, stop talking about it. Just bring them to market.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Thanks.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, if you scroll down, Michelin has a 3D printed airless tire, so you just make them at home on your printer.
Oh God!
Right. And they last virtually forever.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, tire company's going to really do that. So
as in this virtual rendering will last forever.
Yeah. Yeah, we know about things lasting forever. That's always a dangerous. Dangerous prediction to make. Well, speaking of that, there's something new coming from Toyota that isn't. Well, God. They say it's coming. I don't even know.
All right, so that's me as well.
That's
you. And let me bring up a picture here. So what I'm sharing here is a picture of the new Toyota TJ Ugly. It's oh my god,
Total junk.
Yeah, it's a
TJ.
concept, of course, and they have all these pictures of it. And for the love of God, I look at this thing and I'm thinking that is got to be one of the ugliest cars I've seen.
Maybe
in a
they hired
very
the
long
designer
time.
from the Pontiac Aztec.
Right.
Actually,
Somebody said,
it looks kind of Hummerish.
yeah,
I
it
said.
does. Yeah, Pontiac said you couldn't possibly make something uglier than the Aztec, and Toyota said, "Hold my beer."
Right. Exactly.
So of course I looked at this and I thought, oh geez, suicide doors again. But then there was a picture that actually the back door is a sliding door like a minivan. Let me see if I can get to that picture.
Okay.
No.
Where does it go?
Well, it just like a minivan, it just slides back in
Yeah.
front
Oh.
like this. There is one redeeming factor that I feel about this concept, and that is these seats folding, oh my God, perfectly flat.
Camping.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, that's the only practical thing I see in this concept that makes any
Well, because
sense.
remember when the Aztec came out, there was a tent kit. You could open the hatch and have a tent.
Oh my God, that
And they
was
said,
so
people
fucking ugly.
want to sleep in their Aztec. Let's do it without the tent. So we'll just fold the seats flat.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't mind the utility of this car, but just look at that front. That is,
But ugly.
what are you trying to prove with that? I don't know. They could do a better, in my opinion, they could do a better job with that and not make it as fugly. And that's it. I just really, I wanted to show this car.
And is it a regular car or a hybrid or hydrogen? What's the?
It's
It's a hybrid, I believe.
Hmm.
That's what they're talking about, which is
yeah, I forgot. I even read the article, but I was it's powered by the Prius hybrid system.
2-liter gas
Yeah.
with a Prius hybrid system.
Yeah, I was so overwhelmed with the ugliness of this car that none of the words stuck.
Yeah.
And of course, it's based on the FJ Cruiser.
I guess. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
small.
but the FJ Cruiser gets like 16 mpg or something.
Yeah, the FJ Cruiser was a pig. This is on the the TGNA platform. It's a small
Mhm.
car. At first, I thought, oh my God, Toyota's going to build a Hummer, and it looks like a Hummer, but it's much smaller.
It's like on a Prius skateboard.
Yeah,
See, that's the problem. They don't have. They should have somebody standing next to it, or they should do something to give it some sort of scale. I have no idea how big or small this car is.
I would.
There's a person in the background.
I say it's huge.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you that end to end, it's probably not much bigger than the current Prius.
Right.
Yeah. So do any of you, let's see, we have more pictures. I'm trying to come back to the front. Do any of you see, Paul especially, who works on cars, do you see the practicality of a front opening hood like this?
I see that it's getting broken off.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I see a lot of dented fenders,
Yeah.
or I guess like what do you do, like the Mission Impossible suspension thing?
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to work on it, you have to come at it from the roof and lay down. Yeah.
I think that's like a designer suicide door mistake.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, they said we can't do suicide doors because we're doing sliding doors, so let's do a suicide hood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which means if you actually bought this car, you'd want to commit suicide because no
If you
one,
designed the car, you deserve to commit suicide. Yes. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, interestingly enough, and this happened last week, and we may have mentioned it in passing, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. Reuters reported that I'm looking for a name. We talked about Elon's comments about the Mirai and that it was stupid and all of that. Well, interestingly enough, Takeshi Uchiyamada, who is one of the people instrumental in development of the Prius, and also developed Mirai, said two things that were interesting. Number one, sadly, quote, we're not about to give up on hydrogen electric fuel cell technology at all.
Yeah.
Okay. But then he said that I have to scroll down. I should have just written this, but man,
It says they sold 4,300.
Yeah, which is interesting because I didn't think they were supposed to build more than 3,000. I'm not sure where the extra
4,280 were bought by Toyota employees, probably. But.
Yeah, well,
But they were selling so well, they just kept making them.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. The tell in this article is the very last paragraph. It goes on to say, quote, Elon Musk is right. It's better to charge the electric car directly by plugging it in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and the follow-up to that is hydrogen has a place. It's a viable alternative. No, it's not. But, I get it. The fantasy is that hydrogen is cool. And
it's a good technology for the space shuttle.
It's a good technology in lots of limited applications, right?
But not cars.
But okay, yes, not in cars, but it is one of those things, and I know we have a story about this, so I'm not going to go too much into detail here. But unlike, you have batteries for energy storage, but you could also use solar to generate hydrogen to store the energy potential and then convert that back to electricity. And you can also move hydrogen a little bit easier. I'm not going to say a lot, but a little easier than you could move batteries. So it's just, I don't see it as a good battery, energy source. Or it's not even an energy source, energy carrier. But yeah, I do think that hydrogen has some uses. I just think that in the private car market, it doesn't. I just don't think it makes sense in that market. Other markets maybe, but not that one.
I totally agree. Something else that I'm going to get killed for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Something else that probably shouldn't happen. Green Car Reports announced just a few days ago that Kia is planning in 2018 to release a Niro plug-in hybrid. At the end of this year. The Niro plug-in hybrid. I've driven the Optima plug-in hybrid. I've driven the Niro a couple of times, and I almost wish they wouldn't.
I am so looking forward to your review.
I almost wish they wouldn't, because the Niro's not a bad. The gas version of the Niro is not a bad car. It's not a great car, and unfortunately, all of these vehicles have one thing in common that Kia is making a mistake with, and this was the same mistake that Honda made for a long, long time. The hybrid system sucks. I'm sorry, it's not as good as other hybrid systems. The Kia hybrid system is a single motor system, and it has a lot of issues. Kia transmissions aren't that awesome, so the car drives funky. If you've never driven anything else, you're just like, hey, this is cool, this is fun. But as soon as you drive something else, you'd be like, holy crap, my car sucks.
It's like driving a smart car. They suck.
Yeah, right. And then you drive something, a real car, and you're like, what am I doing here? I mean, I spent $20,000 on this. I could have had a real car. Mm-hmm. Cheers to Kia for making a plug-in hybrid crossover. No question about that. Good for them. I hope very, very soon they will address the problems that we pointed out in these cars and fix them. Because then they'll be awesome cars. They will be cars that will compete very well with the other vehicles on the market. Right now, I don't, like 25 miles of electric range in the crossover, that funky tranny, and yeah, I don't think I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. It is one of those things where, I don't think
anybody's ever been excited about a Kia.
Well,
but it's like we were saying before. You really want this to succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do. We want more choices. Look, the bottom line in this show is, no matter who makes it, we want good choices for for consumers, people who want to buy cars that don't run on gas. That's, if anything, the most of the point of this show is we want good choices. And so any expansion of that is good, but ideally we want all the cars to be good.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we've done this 251 times.
Yes, Mark.
You want them to improve.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's some shortcomings that they have in those models. You're hoping they just don't roll out another one with the same shortcomings. Let's learn from past experience. Let's improve what we've got and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kia needs to ditch that 6-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. It sucks.
And the plasticky interiors.
Well, you know what? I don't think the interiors are that bad. I mean, I get it, Paul. I don't think you're wrong, but
it's a Kia, not a Lexus.
Yeah, I don't think that's that bad. What makes me what upsets me is that it's not as efficient and it's not as fun. It's a funky driving car, and it shouldn't be. It should be a really cool car. The Optima's not a bad car. It's a drive-in. I mean, plasticky or whatever. It's not horrible. It's the driving experience that's weak, in my opinion. I'm going to stop talking now. Hey, Paul, I bet you have something about cars that sell well.
Yes. Where did we go here?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, used EV cars are selling very well, and actually, just down the way here from us is a used car dealer called Green Eyed Motors that sells a lot of used EVs. And not only are they selling well, they've actually, I was talking to the owner the other day, he said that prices are going up at the wholesale auctions because word is out that they're selling well.
Wow.
So dealers are like, well, I can make money selling this Fiat 500e. So there's more competition to buy those cars. So they used to be able to easily buy these cars and use Leafs and not. And now the prices are creeping up. And interestingly, a lot of these cars are headed for Europe from North America.
Really?
Where gas is, $6 a gallon or whatever.
Mm.
And they're like, hey, if we buy a used Leaf in the States and ship it to Europe, there's still money to be made doing that.
Wow.
So the days of cheap used EVs might be going away, and just general consumer awareness. More people are with the Tesla stories and the Chevy Bolt stories. People are saying, maybe for my second car in the household, a used EV makes a lot of sense, and I certainly agree. It's you get a lot of car for $10,000ish usually. So
totally. And there's the top 10 fastest selling used cars. 6 of them are not powered exclusively by gasoline.
Yeah.
So who's buying the used Hyundai Veloster Turbo?
Somebody is a really poor decision maker.
Yeah.
That car's awful.
Those hamsters or whatever that drive them are.
Right. They're buying them all.
They're hard on cars. Yeah.
They're cornering the market on Velosters, let me tell you.
Velosters. I mean, the Benzo GLC I get, the Lexus IS200 I get. The Veloster, I mean, did people get to drive that before they took it out? Because it's that same dual clutch transmission. Maybe it's because the new ones depreciate so fast. The used ones are like 10 cents, so they're selling quickly.
Well, there is that. It doesn't actually give an average price of the used.
Right. Or percentage of what it is now versus when it was new. That would be interesting to see. But it is cool that consumers are starting to consider EVs and used EVs as a viable purchase option.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that the used price is going up. How often do you hear about that?
Yeah. Well, supply and demand, right? So.
Yeah.
And the Fiat 500e is a fun car to drive. They're a hoot. So it's like a little sporty go-kart. Lots of torque.
Well, there you go. Well, let's leave the realm of cars completely and go to that other thing that we like to talk about. Sustainable energy. Mark, I bet you have some.
Let's talk trains, because that's what we talk about here on this show.
I like riding the train.
This is a fantastic story about a concrete gravity train. And what this is basically a battery. So when renewables are collecting electricity through the wind or through the sun, the problem we have is that when the wind stops or it becomes night, we're not collecting the same amount of electricity. So we like to put it in some sort of a battery so that we can use it when the times that we need it. Have a more constant grid, and we can use it all the time. This fantastic idea is basically a track that runs about 7 miles on a slope of about 7 degrees. And these concrete sleds are put together, and they will roll down the track, basically releasing energy through regenerative braking power. So during the day, when they have lots of energy, they push, or they allow these things to drive up the hill and park at the top of the hill. And then when evening comes, or when they need a demand, they start to release these carts, start to roll down the hill, and using regenerative energy are able to slow the vehicle down to a manageable speed and collect a constant amount of electricity as it's moving its way down the hill. So they're talking about, this is not at scale, this is a model, but they are talking that these are going to move as they're moving down the hill. The company claims they're collecting an 80% efficiency rate.
Jesus.
And each car can deliver constant power for up to 8 hours on the track. So
That's
they're
great.
releasing these cars in a number, depending on what they require. They can release them single, they can release them in packs, and they will go down and produce electricity, working their way all the way down the hill.
And then in the morning they go back up the hill.
And in the morning, when there's lots of energy, they push them back up the hill to do it again when the energy is low again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying that when each of these trains is 300 tons, which obviously this is not a 300-ton train, it will provide some 50 megawatts of power to help stabilize the grid.
Wow.
And can do that for 8 hours.
And can do that at 8 hours and at 80% efficiency. And Tony, you and I both know that using regenerative braking, and Paul, I'm sure as well, it does not recover anywhere near 80%. You get maybe half of it back. They've been able to figure out.
And unlike traditional trains, they don't need brake pads on the train to stop it.
There's no need for brake pads. You're right, because the regenerative power is what is slowing it down to a manageable speed.
I mean, this to me makes more sense than, like I've heard in Europe, there's windmill farms that pump water up to a reservoir at the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And then they let the water down and turn a hydroelectric dam. But that's a lot of work to build a dam and water and turbines, and just to throw these trains on the same track is pretty smart. So
yeah, that's really cheap. Just laying track, putting a train on it. Yeah.
So here's hoping that the claims of the company are correct and they can build this up to a larger scale. But this would be an excellent solution for many communities to have a renewable battery. That obviously there is some maintenance required.
And the output is just electricity, where you could use the electricity during the day to make hydrogen, but then you've got to store and distribute the hydrogen. So this is smarter than the hydrogen deal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And again, this is also part of not just building 7,000 nuclear plants or 7,000 coal plants or natural gas plants. It's about diversifying our energy production and storage grid, giving us different solutions which don't pollute. And that's a huge thing. I'm going to take this talking guy off there. I was just fascinated watching the trains go up.
Right. And to me, it actually is really cool on the geeky front, because it takes kinetic energy, converts it into potential energy.
Right.
That is then turned back into kinetic energy. And that just the whole conversion and the storage of potential energy I think is just really, really cool. You know, people don't think about the potential energy, factor. So something like this actually expands someone's mind when they're thinking about where energy can come from.
You do need a hill, though, so probably won't work well in Louisiana.
That is correct, unless you build your own hill.
Right.
But it worked darn fine out here.
Yeah.
Right.
Even doing it in something like a cone, like a spiral, it would do it there. Like you could build a large spiral in the middle of flatland and just run the track around it to be more efficient with the space.
You need a hell of a strong structure, though, if they're 300-ton.
Yeah, cars. You would. Do not build it out of balsa.
Balsa.
Iron tracks on a natural slope would make a lot of sense. But,
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm fascinated by this. I think it's cool, again, that we're coming up with new ways of doing things. It's not all just about batteries. And
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's fiendishly clever.
Yep.
And maybe I can ride on the trains,
I know. See, that's what I was thinking. I want to sit on top of the train as it rolls down the hill.
When the sun's going down, they'll put a commuter rail on there and take you home going up. And everybody will live at the top of the mountain. And then,
and commute to work down at the bottom. Yes.
Oh, no, you'd have to work at the top of the mountain because you'd go up during the day and down at night.
And then down at night,
Okay, yeah. And it would take 8 hours to get down the hill.
And you have to hope that enough energy was generated that day to take you home.
There may be some slight problems with that plan, but we'll see.
But it's still fun. Well, Mark,
want everyone out there, if you would like, please follow us on our Twitter account, which is
Mark, I totally
at What Drives Us. I do not have one more thing tonight. But thanks for pointing that out.
I didn't mean to just dump that on you with one word and go, do your shout outs. Usually Mark has one secret news item that he drops.
And now that Russell's expecting it, I'm not bringing any more secret news items.
Oh, jeez.
To keep me guessing. I'm sorry. So Mark, continue your shout outs, please.
Please follow us on What Drives Us. You can follow us on Facebook at What Drives Us, and you can follow us on at What Drives Us. I'm sorry, whatdrivesus.us on the web. So
whatdrives.us.
No, YouTube /What Drives Us.
Yes, there we go.
Very good. So I stand corrected. Please follow us on all those different medias, and we will see you during the week.
Absolutely. Tony?
Well, I was trying to find the actual script. And
a minute. Oh, okay. Let's go to Paul.
No. I just want to say that.
What's the score?
So the Hawks are leading over Philadelphia 2-0 at the end of the second, and Houston is still beating LA 5-0.
Wow!
It's now going into the bottom of the fourth.
And that's in LA too, right?
Yeah, that's in LA. So I think that's pretty exciting. But I do want to say that if you do want to see what we're keeping an eye on, and keep an eye on what Patrick is putting out for us on Facebook, make sure that you subscribe to us on facebook.com/whatdrivesus. And if you do use Flipboard as a news aggregator, make sure and search for the What Drives Us magazine that I cultivate along with Philip Barclay on Flipboard. So I don't have my Google Drive is asked me to update, and I don't know how to do that. So
how convenient.
I know, right? Yeah.
What are you updating on Google Drive?
I'm not doing anything on purpose. They're the ones that I tried to open the script and it said, you need to update Google. It's now called Backup and Sync or something.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's the last thing I need to do.
Yeah.
So, Paul, Paul.
I just want to shout out to all those Northeast carb states that are discounting Prius Primes, Chevy Volts, and Chevy Bolts, and keep on doing it because lots of people in Colorado are buying them from your famous states. So thank you.
God, love that. I wish there was more California dealers doing that. I'm going to reiterate what Mark said earlier. Follow us at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Big important favor. If you haven't already, go to youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Subscribe there, please. Ask your friends to subscribe there.
Okay? Yeah, that would be nice. That would really be nice.
We would appreciate it, and it would help us enormously. I want to thank Michael Mannering for our theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. As always, I want to thank these three guys here that look like they're almost awake. Paul, are you still dripping beer?
No, the beer is gone. It dripped away.
I'm doing another Hockey Mom in the can.
Hockey
right
Mom? Yep. Is that a good thing? Hockey Mom in the can?
Yeah. If you're going to do a Hockey Mom, do it in the can.
Stop.
Man. That was just bad.
It writes itself.
Go there at all, okay? You're in the penalty box the rest of the show. I want to thank all of our amazing panelists, Tony, Mark, and Paul, for being on the show this week. And, of course, always want to thank all of you for watching and or listening. Those of you that have noted our absence on iTunes and the whatdrives.us site, look for a redesign on that coming soon. And don't ask me to Elon Musk you on the soon. Soon. Okay? I don't know how soon, but soon. We're working.
3,000 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Tesla ships the 10,000th Model 3, it'll be no. We're going to be good with that. So thanks again for all of you. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See ya. Dun, dun, dun. I always want to wait a little bit, right? Just for the...
Right. You got it. There it is.
There we go. So I can